Just before we get into the actual kashering, so we were discussing last week what you have to do with your hummus, get rid of it, how much hummus you have to look for. Obviously, we said that in the kitchen, in these areas, one has to clean very well. A common Scheiner that comes up, every year I get this question at least 2-3 times, is that someone wants to keep hummus stick of food. We didn't really discuss the sale yet of food, but you could sell the food, you sell it with the shtam chira, and they want to keep it if it's a refrigerated food or a frozen food. They want to keep it in the refrigerator freezer over Pesach. And so if you have a separate refrigerator, it's very good. So you close up the refrigerator and you sell it. But some people don't have a separate refrigerator and they want to save it, so they put it in a bag, tie it up, they cover it, they write big words chametz on it, and they leave it in the back of the fridge. And this is not the way to do it, because the halacha is as follows. A person could sell the chametz, but even if he sells the chametz, he has to get it out of his reshus. There's two things he has to do. A is he has to get it out of his reshus, and B is he has to put a mechitza asar in front of it. How does he get it out of his reshus if he's selling it? It's his closet. So we sell or we rent the place underneath it. So we do. In the shtar mechira, we sell or rent, depending on the shtar, the area underneath the chametz. So if it's your closet, your cupboard, so that is rented out or sold to the person who's buying the chametz. And now the chametz is not in your reshus anymore; it's in the guy's reshus.
So anything that rests on it is resting on
the place. The place exactly underneath the chametz belongs to the guy. Now it was rented to the guy. Now that's not enough, because if it would be his chametz that he decided to just leave by you before Pesach, and you take no achrayus on it, it's his chametz, and you rent him the place underneath, maybe that would be sufficient. But since it was your chametz all year long, and we still have a chashash that you may forget that you rented this area to the guy, and you come in and use it, and then come to eat the chametz, so the halacha of all Biur chametz applies, where you have to have a mechitza asar, you have to have a 10 tefach mechitza between you and the chametz. So if it's in a cupboard, you close the door, you tie it up. You should tie it up in a way where you won't accidentally just open it out of habit. You walk in, open, let's see what's in there, what your wife left there today. So, it should be tied off enough that when you pull it, it doesn't, just to put a little piece of tape there and you pull, it doesn't do anything. It should be tied or taped hard, that at least it, has resistance, and then, it'll remind you that that's called being closed. But there has to be a mechitza in front of it. So it's not recommended to leave a bag in the fridge which doesn't have if you close off the freezer and leave the fridge open, that's okay. The freezer is a place by itself.
We talk about selling the ground underneath. So in the case where you had a shelf unit or cupboard, does that mean you shouldn't have access under? Is it literally everything vertically up because you
No. That cupboard could be in its own. You can rent out that cupboard itself.
So you could have access to the shelves below.
Below, yeah.
You rent the ground out below.
Not the ground, you'll rent the shelf out. The shelf also has a din karka.
Where the food is resting.
Yeah, where the food is resting on.
Okay.
Sorry, say that again.
Some question a drawer. A drawer is only 4 inches high. Maybe it's not 10 tefachim. So if you want to close off one drawer, but mostly you can be saimach that when the drawer is closed, it's in a reshus by itself. It's in a separate reshus by itself, and it's which is usually 10 tefachim high. The whole dresser is 10 tefachim high. But the chametz should be in an area that's closed off with a mechitza asara, and then you could, when you sell it, that's considered it's out of your reshus and it's out of sight. So that's the way you sell it, and it should be closed off also properly, that a person doesn't come to accidentally open it. Now we're talking about real chametz. If you're just talking about your dishes which have chametz in it, and your chametz stick of dishes which have no chametz in it, they're clean and they're in the cupboard, so okay, so just close it off. You don't need whether it's in the shtar or not in the shtar, it really doesn't need to be sold anyways, and there's no chametz there, so it's not an issue. When I'm talking about putting a mechitza, I'm talking about in front of real chametz. Someone asked me, He wants to leave stuff in the refrigerator, chametz stuff. This question. But then, as I was talking to him, I was trying to ask, what kind of chametz are you leaving? You know, so it wasn't really chametz. It was just things that doesn't have a kosher Pesach sign on it, but it's not chametz. It doesn't have real chametz ingredients in it. Okay, could be these are terulas chametz at best. That's we discussed last week. It's not a real could be kamekel for shas and tzchak. But the best thing is if these things are separate in a separate area. If he wants to, maybe he could put up, close off the bottom half of his fridge by putting a board or something in the front and cover the shelf and make a little box there, something which is a mechitza, and then it's covered if he doesn't have another choice. Okay, getting to the kitchen, so the kashering process. So first, I'd like to go through the ways to kasher and how they work, and then we'll understand how it applies. We have something called, the Gemara says, Kabbalah kach polte. The way it goes in is the way it goes out. This is a rule, a general rule. So in other words, Kol David, a pasuk says, Asher teviu ba'esh, anything which you use on the fire, you have to kasher it ba'esh in order to kasher it. So if you have a stick that you use, what do you call those things, to barbecue with,
skewer.
Yeah. So there you have to put over the fire, the same fire, in order to put it through a fire in order to kasher it. If something was cooked b'mayim, so you could kasher it with water. So a pot, which goes on the fire, but it cooks with water. There's always water there, so water's going in and out. So then you could kasher it by doing hagolah. You kasher it with water. There's different ways of going about kashering, which we'll see, but that's the general rule. You have to look at what type of kli it is, how it's used, and how it's used, you will kasher it. Now, in libun is to put it over the fire. There are two types of libun. There's a libun kal and a libun chomer. Libun chomer is we call it libun, means it gets white, it gets so hot. You're almost cleansing it. It gets extremely hot, and it's sparks come out as a libun. So that's real heat. Such a libun you could do today with a self-clean oven. Gets quite hot if it's on long enough. Self-clean oven is called a libun chomer. Another kind of libun chomer would be coals. You take hot coals and you put it over a surface. You leave it there, so that's called a libun chomer. So if you wanted to kasher a grill or something, you put coals on it, hot coals, and that's a real libun. If you leave it there until it gets nice and hot.
Okay, we're getting red hot.
Yeah, you might not see it get red hot depending on the material, but it gets quite. You leave it on for long enough, it gets quite hot. So that's how you kasher. That's how you kasher with a libun chomer. Another avenue is a blowtorch, which is very not recommended.
Yeah.
There's more of a chance you'll burn your house than you'll kasher your kelim. Just to give some people go around blowtorching and kashering, keep the blowtorch in the oven. To make a libun chomer, this is, you would have to leave it for like 4 minutes on each spot. On each spot, you know how it was, maybe it's an inch by inch or 2 inch by 2 inches, however wide it is, each spot to go through it. You definitely won't have an oven left, and you might not have a house left, but the question is if you're really proper kasher. So the blowtorch, unless someone really knows what he's doing and is experienced in it, to make a libun chomer, to make a proper libun, is not so advisable. So, but we'll see what needs that kind of libun. That's the heaviest form of kashering. Something which could have hagolah, something which you could kasher with water, could also have what we call a libun kal. A libun kal is a lighter form of libun, where it just gets hot enough that a straw could burn if you put it on the outside of it, which is not so hot. This could be done with a blowtorch or other things. And that's called libun kal, a light libun. This libun it works on things which you could make hagolah on. A pot could have a libun kal on it. We'll give a few cases soon. Pot which you could cook, which you could do hagolah, and sometimes it's preferable to do libun kal if it's hard to get, Hagola only works, Kashering only works for bliyas that are in a pot. So in other words, if you have a clean pot, and now you want to kasher it, so you could put it in the boiling water and kasher it. But if your pot is dirty, if there are crevices there which are have dirt in it, so you could kasher it from today till tomorrow. It's still, if that piece of there is chametz or treifus or whatever it may be, and you want to kasher it, you can't, it won't work. Kashering only works for stuff that are inside the walls of the kalim. That kashering works for. But something which is out mamasha, something which is pieces, kashering doesn't work for.
If you have like a handle, you might have
like a plastic handle.
Yeah, something with might be like a wafer handle, right? Steel with something on top and the bottom.
Right.
You wouldn't know if there's anything in between.
In between, meaning where it attaches.
Yeah.
Yeah. So okay. So we'll discuss that. You could see if it's clean, but sometimes things get in there which are dirty. So this is an issue. Kashering will not get rid of things that are there, but libun could. So in other words, a libun chal, a self-clean oven, which is a real libun, you don't even have to clean it. You can just turn it on and burn it out, and whatever's there is gone. But even a libun kal could get into these areas, these areas which are not as which are not accessible, and you have a little dirt in there. The libun kal, it's a slight amount, so the libun kal can burn it. So that's a mile of using libun kal sometimes. So those are the general ideas. Now let's go back and talk about chametz for a moment. Chametz is a machlokes Shulchan Aruch, whether you have to. It's like any treifus. A treifus means you had iser that went into your pot or went into your oven, dishwasher, or whatever it may be, and now you want to kasher it and get it out. Okay? So we have these rules. Put one in the fire, you got to get it out with fire. Chametz is actually a machlokes. It's actually a machlokes. If it needs to be kashered like that, let's get it over here. Here, Mechaber says, brings up by chametz, the grills, they need libun. Well, libun is until sparks come out. Hagav v'yesh makilin im neslabin kol kach shekash nisrefalov. So those that are mekel, that for chametz we're talking about, that you don't need a real kashering, even things that we use on the fire, as long as you have a libun kal, that the straw burns on it, from the chutz of the outside. We're knowing like the first one, but we'll see in a moment. So he brings a second shita, you don't need a full kashering. What's the reason for this? The reason for this is that chametz is a question, it's not really, and when you use your pots all year, you're not using iser, there's no iser going into the pot. It's kosher. It's kosher bread. It has a hechsher. It's pas Yisrael, it's everything. Just what happens on Pesach, it becomes aser. So there's a concept called hetera bola. Something went in when it was mutter, and then it becomes aser afterwards. In the Gemara in Avodah Zarah, it's the last blot in Avodah Zarah. The Gemara says it does not need the same hechsher as something which is isura bola. Something which is berlei iser. In Gemara's case is a noiser, for example, kachim. The Gemara says if you have a carbon is left overnight, becomes noiser, it becomes aser. Because the kalim that they use in the base of mitzvah to cook the chatas, to cook the shlamim, so they cook the food in it, and now you have meat inside the pot, and then, or you have it inside the grill, whatever you're using, you have meat there, and then the next day it became aser when it was inside the walls of the pot. So the Gemara says you don't need a do libun, you could do hagola. Why? Because since when it went in it was a heter, it's called a terabola, so then we're makel that if you do hagola, that's enough. Why is that enough? I didn't get it all out. Because Hagola gets enough out that whatever's left in is a smaller amount, and that amount doesn't become aser. You see, if it was mutter, and now it's becoming aser, so it's such a small amount that doesn't become. So Hagola works on something which is called a terrible. It's a whole sugya there for those that Lamdonim that want to figure out what the Pshat is a Ran, a Rashi, figure it out. But that's the concept the Gemara says. The question is, does this apply by Chametz? Chametz all year is Heter, and on Pesach it becomes Isser. So the question is, do we consider this Heter Bola or not? So some Rishonim say, yeah, Chametz on Pesach is Heter Bola, and therefore even things which need a more Chamedik kashrus, needs a real libun on it, still, since it was Heter Bola, so I could kasher it, especially I'm kashering before Pesach, where it's still Heter, so I could kasher it with Hagolah. There's another reason for this. We'll hold off with that. And so says, but other Rishonim say, no. Chametz is considered a Surah Bola. Why? Because Chametz is the same Chametz all year and on Pesach. It just happens to be also on Pesach. Chametz all year is also on Pesach. It's not the kachim that went into the pot becomes nicer. Overnight, a transformation takes place, and it becomes from Heter, it becomes to Isser. The food, the transformation takes place. But Chametz is the same Chametz. There's just a time frame when you're allowed to eat it, and there's a time frame when you're not allowed to eat it. So that's not considered.
Very similar to Nicer. Seems to be very similar.
It seems to be similar, but
one moment is Aser, one moment.
First, today it's mutter, the next day is Aser.
It's the same
It's the
meat.
time that's causing the difference.
It's the same kachim. It's the same meat.
It's the same meat, but no. It becomes nicer. In other words, it's left overnight. It's left overnight, so an Isser is chal on it. This Isser is never going to go off. It'll remain on it forever.
No, but it becomes.
We're saying it's the item that changes rather than
It's the item that changes rather than the time, yeah.
But the Nassim becomes mutter again.
So,
A week later.
Chametz
The
again.
Chametz becomes
Yeah, this machlokes of Chametz becomes mutter after Pesach with the Raisa, yeah. It could be some difference. So it just so happens that most Rishonim hold of this svara, and most Rishonim hold Chametz as Yisura Bola. Doesn't have that. But since there are Rishonim that hold that it's considered a Heter Bola, so we could use it as a sniff. We could use it as if there's another reason why it should be mutter, we could use this along with it. It's not a reason by itself, because we have Rav Rishonim that go that has a din of Yisura Bola. So, but it could be used along, as we'll see. That's one Hakdama. These are an example what a seal is. Just remember here.
So you're saying if you need to rely on it, let's say you kasher it by Hagala, and then afterwards you decide, I should have done it by fire, you could, one could still use it?
If someone did Hagala, if someone did Hagala, he didn't ask his rabbi, he did Hagala on it, and now comes Pesach and he cooked with it, the food is mutter b'diavad. That's correct. Let's see, there's a case here, okay, comes a little later. There's another case here. Anyways, so that's the background here. So now we're going to go to the ovens. We'll see where it applies. Okay, so now let's go over here to the sheet. So if you look in the beginning of the sheet, it says ovens, yeah? So the issue is on a self-clean oven. We'll go to the second one, it's the easier one. A self-clean oven, there's no issue. It's even chomer. It should be left on, he writes here, at least 2 hours. Chatchilu should be for 3 hours. It should be left on. It's depending on the oven, how hot it gets, how quick it gets to heat up. But it should be left on to be heated properly, and that burns everything out. In the self-clean oven, there's nothing more left you have to do. It's clean, the racks are clean, everything is clean. It says, note here, you shouldn't put anything on the door, because it could be the door itself doesn't get as hot as the rest of the oven. It's insulated, it doesn't get as hot.
By that, don't put anything on the door.
food.
Yeah, food.
When you open the door.
When you open the door flat, don't place food directly on the door.
Does the door have to be covered with anything?
I mean, if you're not putting anything on the door, it doesn't have to be covered. If your wife usually places things on the door, then preferably it should be covered. This way, you know.
But if not, it's on.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be covered. So that's a self-clean oven. A regular oven, oven that's not self-clean, is lots of questions. So the question is, what kind of kashrus does it need? What do you have to do to be machshir it? So if you would need a liban chomer, you're not going to get that in a regular oven. It gets to 550, 600 maybe tops degrees. It's not hot enough. You need at least 800 degrees or higher. So it's not hot enough, a regular oven, to kasher it in the liban gomer. So the question is the oven really usher to begin with? So we have machlekes Moshe and Rabbi. Moshe held that an oven cannot be kasher. Oven needs liban gomer. It cannot be kasher. So Moshe held. A lot of the question goes into how the uses of an oven is. In other words, is it considered basically used for zeya, or is it just reach? There's no zeya there. The question is, if the oven walls, the food doesn't generally touch the oven walls. The food doesn't even generally touch the racks. Maybe sometimes it'll spill over. The spillage usually burns up. The question is, what avenue did the walls of the oven become usher in order to allow me to kasher it? Now, when we're talking about kashering for usage all year, there's a chumrah and a kula. When we're talking about kashering usage all year, so we know anything which is left 24 hours is nice and tamlaf gam. And we also know that you need a shear to asa, shishim, to make the food asa. So therefore, when it comes to kashering an oven for all year use, there's no question that someone who rents an apartment and there's an oven there and it's a regular oven, he can simply kasher it by cleaning it well, make sure there's no mamoshes, like we said, pieces cannot become mutter, so he has to clean it well, and after he cleans it well, he can turn it on the highest and kasher it, and that makes a liban kal. So it's similar to, it does what Hagolah would do, it makes a liban kal, and that would kasher it. You would have to put on afterwards, after you turn it on, then you would have to put on the broil on top, so the top element goes on for a half hour after the oven's hot, so it kashers the top also. But that's how you kasher it. You put the regular baking on, which is the bottom one, and then after 2 hours or so, as you say, an hour and a half, you can put on the top one, and that'll do a liban kal and kasher your oven. The racks, it's always preferable to do it proper, because that actually you put the pots on, so that should be put into another oven. Someone else who has a self-clean oven, you just put the racks in and put it through a self-clean cycle. Even for an hour would be fine. The racks, and that would kasher it. If one doesn't do that, it's also okay. But the other, it's okay just to kasher it in the regular oven and leave it there. It does a liban kal, and one can use it all year. When we're coming to Pesach, we're worried about a chametz of a mashahu. So Pesach, even though we said there's a kula of a terebola maybe, it's a terebola, but there's also a kula that it's chametz b'mashu. Now there's another interesting kula here, which one maybe can rely on. There's a machlokes. We said there's a concept of kabole kach poltei, the way it goes in, it goes out. So the whole machlokes I told you, if you could rely on a terebola, you have something, let's say a rack of let's say a grill, something which is really used ala eish, it's used on the fire. And now you want to do it, kasher it by being magalit. You want to do hagolah on it. So that's something which went in, the chametz or the treifus went in during the year with fire. Maybe you have to take it out with fire. So we said this is machlokes, haterabola, maybe I could use hagolah and that would be sufficient. But let's say in this object, the only way it went in was with a lighter fire. It wasn't sitting on the fire, it was an oven. It went in, it wasn't a self-clean oven, it was a regular oven. So it went in with eish, but it went in with a lower heat. So do we say kaboloi kach poltoi, that same heat, whatever heat made it go in, will be the same heat that makes it come out. So however, it became muscle, I could kasher it, so it's pashut. It's posher to like a kasher oven by just turning it on the highest, because the same way it went in, with the same heat, it will come out. So the Moshe Shuvah says, no, this svara doesn't apply. To boil kapolta is only by hagola, which hagola works that the water goes into the pots and takes out the particles of Issa. But Liban works different. Liban works that it burns the Issa. It doesn't take it out, it burns it where it is.
Destroy it.
It destroys it. So there we don't have the svara of the same heat that it went in that goes out. We don't have such a svara. We only have the svara if, however, it went in, it could be washed out. The same way it was washed in is the same way it's washed out. But to burn it is a different svara. Nonetheless, the Bin Chasitzchak from Daim Weiss, he has a tshuva on it. He was trying to be kasher some kind of toaster oven that had a waffle, one of these things makers that was used for that became treif. It became from basar b'chalav. Just to point out, basar and chalav is also could be a case of a terabala, right? If the basar, let's say you have a milchig pot, and the milchig's when it was heter, and then it becomes aser afterwards when the flesh goes in. So at the time the milchig's went in, it was heter, and then it becomes aser. So a lot of the questions of a terabala could apply by basar b'chalav. But anyways, he goes into the shaila, and he brings a svar there. It wasn't possible to do a real liban on it. You wouldn't have any machine left. So he goes into these svaras. Could you be makel with the svar that boiler kachpolta? Since it went in with a lighter heat, you could take it out with a lighter heat. And he brings the machlekes about it. And he also says that we can't be rely on this. The only reason he could rely on it because he had another source of heter, and he was mitzaref to a heter. So for our ovens, we have a few svaras here. One that maybe Pesach is a terabala, which could always be used as a to be mitzaref. Two, maybe you have the svara that however heat it went in, it went out. And three, it could be an oven doesn't really need. According to some, an oven does not really need a liban gomer. So, nonetheless, in the end of the day, it's a machlekes. Moshe holds he can't, and Baron and I think I saw from Rabbi Yaakov Kamenetsky, he also could do today's ovens. He also could kasher. And therefore, one could rely on that if he has a regular oven, and he could, as long as it's cleaned well, he should use, as it says here, he should use oven cleaner, the easy off, which takes whatever's chametz around. You can't get every piece of chametz off, but it makes it that it's not really lachilus kelev anymore. It doesn't make it fit for consumption. So you should use that easy off on it, put it on liberally, and scrub it and wash it.
Is that a form of destruction as well, then? Destruction for use of eating?
Yeah, but that only takes the stuff that's on the outside.
Right.
It doesn't get in. And then he could burn out his oven. Preferably the racks should be sent to someone who has a self-clean oven to do. Preferably, or you could cover it, cover the racks. And then, like it says here, some poskim say an oven insert should be used, or you should cover it. I used to have one of these ovens, and I covered it with aluminum foil all around. It worked. You just don't cover the vent, because it's be able to get out. It worked. It was a little, it was probably the longest project I had to try to get the aluminum foil in there to stay up. But it actually worked, and the baking was, some of the cakes were a little overdone, some were a little raw. It was hard to.
What about the ovens with the ceramic tops? As far as the
stovetop. We're going to get to the stovetop, yeah. So, but that's for the inside of the oven. But Lemaisa, one could be saimach on that, especially when he's talking about he's cooking before Pesach and he's baking before Pesach. I was only machmer to put on the things on Pesach, but when you're baking before Pesach, when anyways mashu chametz is not also yet, it's only us
before Pesach.
Before Pesach, for Pesach. Yeah, in other words, your wife wants to make kolos before pre-Pesach cooking. So for that, it's definitely one could be makel, because the whole shiloh there is a question. It's not going to ask it mashu. It's only on Pesach chametz is also mashu. Before Pesach, it's what's all worried here about is a mashu of chametz. Anyways,
how about barbecues? Just out leaving chamer, can't do it.
So the question with a barbecue grill,
you put the grills in your self-cleaning oven, but it's the case of the barbecue, I suppose.
might be the case.
Like the surface.
The surface, the top and the bottom. So the truth is, a barbecue grill is technically a barbecue grill. If it's cleaned, you could you put it on. It gets quite hot. It's mamish a liban gomer. But for some reason, the poskim don't like people kashering barbecue grills. Well, see a while and ask them. But it's not recommended. But technically, it could be kashered.
It's not just the grill. It's like you said, the case.
Well, the cover you put on, it gets...
Flashes.
No, well, the ones that have a cover, you close.
Right.
And you heat it up, you burn it out. It gets hot as... what? Doesn't?
So Lamaisa, like, if we could do it, that'd
Doesn't
be
get
nice.
so hot to top?
I don't know. It gets hot. I wouldn't touch it from the outside.
There's a fire brewing in there, no?
Yeah.
And then on the
Some
bottom,
of them
you
get
have the accumulation.
The bottom is...
And you have to make sure the dripping parts...
Yeah. The other parts shouldn't be used for sure. I mean, you shouldn't put things on unless you take coals and do a leave-in on them. But
So, what's
maybe
the
it's
issue
very
then?
hard to clean. It's very hard to clean. It's very hard to clean, and it's not. I could look more into it, but from what I've seen so far, that they don't recommend doing it. But even though technically it could be done, I don't know. What is the COR's policy on it?
I'm sorry?
What was this? Okay, so I don't know, but I was looking into that a little bit. Some reason they don't
Nice.
recommend it, although technically it could be kosher. There's no question with
You buy a $20
olive and gum.
barbecue and keep it a pace.
Yeah, that's for sure.
That's not fun.
Oh,
Old fashioned.
Don't cook your Seder meal with barbecue.
No?
You can't roast it.
okay. The top. Let's go to the top. The microwave ovens. It says here that it's best not to kasher microwave oven. Now we have a question of what material could be kasher. This is another question. Which material could be kasher? Like we know, a klicheres cannot be kasher.
What's that?
Klicheres is earthenware, but enamel could be klicheres. Certain things could have a status of klicheres. Certain things are questionable. China is a question if it's glass or klicheres. I saw someone writes that today that China is so fine it has a din of glass. It's a question what it is, but we don't kasher these things because they might be klicheres. So microwave oven is I don't know what it's made of. Maybe it's made of plastic. Plastic is also a question what plastic is. Plastic, could it be kasher? Could it not? What?
Doesn't smell good when you kasher it either.
If you take the torch.
No.
It burns down.
So it's plastic, but so plastic is a question whether it could be kashered. Does it have a din of klicheres because it's a new material which we don't have rules on kashering on?
Is it the absorbency factor that we're concerned about?
In other words, if it absorbs, could it come out? Does it easily come out? Some are makel that it's not a klicheres. I mean, it's not earthenware, so it could be kashered. And it's very relevant for the dishwashers, which we'll get to kasher dishwashers, if they're plastic on the inside. And anyways, someone should ask the shaila if it's really negeya, but a microwave oven, so that's why it says best not to be kashered, but if a person does need it, sometimes someone's in a situation, he's living alone, it's not so simple for him to cook in other ways, he's assisted living, and he needs a microwave oven. It's very common a person should need it. If a person needs it, it could be kashered, and clean it thoroughly. Make sure you get behind the vents. Make sure you get where it's where there shouldn't any crumbs shouldn't come in on Pesach. And then the way the way it absorbs is from the steam. That's how it absorbs. The walls don't actually get hot in the microwave oven. It's just the food that gets hot. But the steam absorbs through the steam. So you kasher it with steam. You put a large amount of water. If you're smart, you'll boil it up in a pot before you put it in the microwave. Otherwise, you'll be sitting there for a while. You turn it on, and you get it, let it cook and steam all over. The bottom, the kli on the bottom, if it can't be replaced, it should be covered. Or you can maybe even pour water on it, to do agala on it, and pour water on it if possible. And then anything you cook on Pesach, it's a glass tray.
Yeah.
So you could kasher that. You could pour water on it, But
So this is just for Pesach? Or this is
just for Pesach. All year also. All year to kasher.
If you go to a hotel, can you kasher?
If you go to a hotel, so again, all year we're not worried about a mashu. We're only worried about shishim. So yeah, so all year also you could, if you make sure it's clean, you could put boiling water in it. You clean it well, put boiling water in it, and then and then just cover the thing. But all the food that's put in there should be wrapped, preferably double wrapped, so it doesn't open. It should be wrapped. It should be in a container, and you shouldn't leave open food in the microwave oven. Okay, the top of the stove. So the same concepts apply. So the element itself, Canada here, most of the elements are electrical. So the elements that are electrical is a liba and gomer. Turn it on the highest. It's burned out. There's no question. Probably never even became treif, because when the food goes on, it just burns itself out. So it's a self-kashering process. So the elements itself is not a problem, but you should burn it out. You turn it on for 10 minutes. Now, to spread the heat, you put a pot on it, put water in the pot so the pot doesn't burn. You spread the heat. Now, you have around the elements, you have the chrome, the metal chrome. That also has to be kashered. It should be cleaned. It should be taken out and cleaned from the pieces.
Put in a self-cleaning oven, you're good, right?
You put in a self-cleaning oven, you won't have a chrome left.
Sure.
Well, I've done that before, you're right.
And you were recommending it to us.
So we have two
That's very
sets.
nice.
One for our Pesach and one all year round.
That's a good idea.
For that reason.
But you could do, since that doesn't get so hot, and it doesn't really get just food splashes on it really, so it's only a question of it goes in with mayim, it goes in with splashing. So you could kash it with hagola. You could put it in a pot and be magal it, or simpler, you could put it in a pot, boil it, or a simpler eitzah is to just put it back on the thing, and when you put your pot on it, you put your pot over the on the element, and you turn it on to the highest for 10 minutes. The pot is larger. You put a large pot that's larger than the chrome, so it spreads the heat over to the chromes. It makes a liban kal.
In the bottom of the pot, the heat that comes down to the bottom of the pot.
Right, it's close enough. That's
If you have a gas stove, you have an iron grate on top.
So a gas stove. So this is
most
for
of
an
them are
electric.
porcelain coated.
Exactly. So this is for electrical.
Right.
So electric oven. So that's the simple things. The drip trays should be cleaned well. Some people cover them. Usually, if you have a chrome around, so the drip trays don't really come in contact with anything. So I don't know if it's such an issue. Some of the drip trays go over the side. Actually, it's like a one piece. So then those should be done the same way. Put the pot over it.
The large pot should be hummus or Pesach? Pot itself.
Okay, so that's a good question. So I don't think over here it matters because this is doing Liban. So in this case, it wouldn't matter what it is as long as it's clean. For this point.
What if you have a glass top?
Yeah, so we'll get to the other stuff. So that's for the regular one. Now the area in between should be washed well and covered. The reason why you cover it is because food might have splashed there, gone there. You might have put pots down on the stove during the year, and now you want to put a pot down on Pesach, so it should be covered. You should cover it with aluminum foil. It's not so hard to cover with aluminum foil. Put one layer of aluminum foil, sometimes two. It'll stay there the whole Yom Tov. It's not a problem. This way you could put things on it, or if something falls on it, you don't have an issue. If you don't have it covered and some food will fall on it, you wouldn't be able to use it. You would have to throw that food out. The gas ones, the gas oven tops, so that's also, you have to kash it with liban gomer. What do you call it? The
grates.
The grates, the grates. You have to do that liban.
In an oven?
I don't know if it'll last in a self-cleaning oven. You have to really test these things.
You mean
the coating, yeah.
That's what I was concerned about.
Yeah. I don't know if it'll last. You could just turn on the flame, and you turn on the flame. You might have to move it around a little bit, after it stays on. Put on the flame, put a pot on top of it, and let it sit there for 10, 15 minutes, maybe a little longer. Let it sit there, and then, I guess that's what you have to.
Yeah, but if you're moving it around, there's a base, and then there's parts that come around. So you're not going to.
After you put the pot on and let it sit a little bit, you could take your tongues and move it around a little bit.
You're talking about moving the pot around.
No, move the grater. Take the pot off and just move the grater around to get parts that might have not
It's not
been
going to work. The steps
covered.
It's too heavy.
That grade that goes all over the...
Oh, you have one thing that goes over the whole
No,
oven.
they're usually in ours.
If you have a
it's like
separate
three
one,
sections,
it's easy, yeah.
and they're heavy,
Yeah.
and they've got a base, and then they've got, so you can't exactly, in this manner, you're not going to be able to cover all of it. The only way you're going to be able to do it, I would
Can't
imagine.
pick it up with the tongs.
Yeah, but
do
it's too heavy. You wouldn't be able to pick it up with tongs. You need two
that's
hands,
right.
and even if you had two people with two tongs, there's like a perimeter base, and then there's archways that go to the top part. So, you know, like how are you going to cover all that territory, all that surface area? It's not like it's just flat. If it's flat, I could see that.
Yeah, okay. If it can't be done, it can't be done.
Uh-huh.
You know, but you have it anyways. You could be saimach on it that it's a lieben kal for sure. It is. It's for sure a lieben kal. So a person could be saimach on that. You're not eating directly for that. It touches the food. It touches the pot, and usually it's dry because whatever goes under there dries up from the heat. So
as long as it's clean.
so you're not going to have food going from. Food cannot travel from one solid, from one metal to another metal, unless there's liquid in between. That's the rule we have. So
So in that area,
but the avid a person can be saimach on that all the way to Kashering. You could find out if it could be in a soft clean oven for a half hour, whatever it is.
you can find out once.
Yeah.
But
It's not a great idea.
Let's say you don't do it. So should
It's
we be
okay,
covering with
just put it
foil
in.
or what?
No, you
don't
can
even
cover
need
that
to.
with foil.
So what's the difference between
That's,
that and barbecue?
No. Barbecue, you're cooking directly on the thing. Here, you're putting a pot on.
Oh, okay.
If it's a large grate that covers the whole top.
Yeah, I'm not sure how you're going to get the middle. The middle doesn't get hot.
But it never
Yeah,
gets.
kasha, that's, yeah.
But you don't cook in the middle either.
Right. No.
Yeah, you don't cook it in the middle, but things could splash on it. You'll have, maybe you could do hagolah on it.
You put 4 pots,
Yeah.
one on each burner.
So put a pot on the whole thing. Cover the whole thing. Put the fires on and cover the whole thing. That should do it. That should spread the heat enough till you'll have at least a lieben kal on the rest of it. So that's how you do the stovetop. Now the big question today comes with the glass stovetops. The glass stovetops oven. What din does that have? It has a din of kucheres. It doesn't have a din of kucheres balea. L'maisa, the element itself is not a problem. You turn it on the heat highest, it gets a lieben gomer, so that's fine. So if you just turn it on, the same thing, put a pot on. You should put your largest pot on because the problem is like this: the element is smaller than the pots, so the area around the element doesn't get as hot as the pot as the element itself. So you should put a larger pot on. This way you have a lieben kal, at least on that, at least a lieben kal. It gets quite hot even around the elements, so at least you'll have that. The rest should be covered. The rest should be covered, again for the same reason. And speaking to my brother-in-law, Rabbi Felder, and he suggested many people to do it. They have a problem. You're not allowed to cover it. You can't cover it with a blech. You cannot cover a glass oven top with a blech. It might crack. But if you put aluminum foil and you cut out the areas of the
elements.
Of the elements, he said he never had a problem yet.
Can't kasher with water. Same thing.
There is a way to kasher it
But
with
it's
water.
gonna break
It
it, I
could, the heat to cold could make it crack.
Yeah.
And the fact that it's cold and you right gets a shock of heat and then it cools, that could make it crack. There is a way to kasher with water, but it's fine. Just put on a aluminum foil, cut out holes for the elements, and he said he hasn't had a problem as of yet. And no one come complaining that the oven broke. It's only the heavier metal that covers it, that keeps the heat in there, that
And then that covers everything
causes the
too.
crack. Then you have another problem.
Yeah.
We had a blech, and we didn't know, and it exploded.
Oh boy.
Well,
The glass?
the glass exploded
Whoa.
Put a
many years
blech on
ago.
top, yeah. But that's if you put a sheet of metal on. But you just put aluminum foil on.
This is
to have it
during
in
the year.
Yeah. The truth is, the areas that are in the middle don't, as long as you don't use it, you don't put anything on it. You could put on, one of these lift up, if you don't want to put some, you don't want to put on the countertop. You have those metal things. You could put them around. So you ever put a pot, you put it on that instead of on the thing. You don't want to put aluminum foil on, but it hasn't been an issue. as far as the last 2 years. People have been using it, putting aluminum foil on. That takes care of that problem.
So funny, I thought the whole purpose that people used to pick that, if I remember correctly, we have a glass there. I think one of the reasons we picked it was because we were told it was so easy to cash from Pesach.
You should avoid them because it is difficult.
It was hard, but you could be saying mechanit. The question is, what it's considered. Cheres, you could be saying mechanit. That's enough. You can even cash it with water if you know how to do it. We're holding the time over here.
9:35.
I'm a little over time. I just want to get. We didn't get to cover a lot of the areas here.
We covered the stove, so we didn't cover the area.
Okay, Paul, that's enough.
Yeah, we didn't cover the countertops, so we'll have to go to that next week.
That's important.
But just to finish the stoves over here, and the dishwashers. I'll have to get to next week. But as far as the knobs, you handle the knobs a lot. So that should also be and also it's close, from the steam in a pot. That should also be. You have to know your stove. But I just throw it into a boiling pot of hot water. You don't really have to. You could just clean it. It's a butt.
Yeah, but it's not a button. It's like a membrane that you push.
Yeah, you can't catch that.
Underneath.
Now, the areas around the stove should be covered. It should be covered because it's close enough to things splash. Things get there, you use it. Anything around should be covered. The top, if it's high up, is not a problem. If it's lowered enough that the steam gets it when it's hot, then it should also be covered. But I put it over the side of my stove, on the front of the stove. I tape aluminum foil over it, but you could just pick it up and turn it on and turn it off, because otherwise it's hard to do with the buttons and the things. So that could be done.
Rabbi, we have these hooded vents that take the ventilation.
Yes, that's
away.
what I'm saying. Technically,
and
the
they have
higher
inside of them like
fan,
a filter.
Yeah. So the vents itself are usually high enough that by the time the steam hits it, it's not hot. So it's not a kashrus as long as it's clean. It's not a kashrus issue. Some people cover it. You don't need to put your vents on, on Pesach. You just cover it and finish on Pesach itself. Again, before Pesach, but on Pesach itself, some just cover it, and some crumbs should fall out. It's a hiddur definitely to cover it. Okay, we're going to have to take it up next week, the countertops and other areas.